to a DOT, but it is new in TDOT trying to establish a holistic system that we're going to operate within, that ecosystem of asset management. And so with that, you have a bridge asset management team. Obviously, they're over related to the aspects of our functionality of our bridges, pavement asset management office, ancillary infrastructures team, which is, culverts, signs, ITS equipment, all of those things like pavement markings, things like that. Fleet and facilities team, transportation data systems, which is probably like the newest little group there. Operating, trying to set up enterprise asset management systems within the organization and data governance, and holistic performance and quality management, trying to establish that quality management policies and KPIs across the organization. And this is just a snapshot of the org structure there. So again, Justin is the director. And then I have all those functional areas with their support staff underneath them. And, they're intended to work cross-functionally. They're small teams. They're intended to work cross-functionally, forced to work cross-functionally, given the size that they are. For what it's worth, the people that are in the red boxes, those are all going to be engineers. So those are your bridge, your pavement, and your ancillary infrastructure assets. And then the others are your data systems, performance and quality, and fleet and facilities. The consultant scope of work here. So generally, I know what you all think of whenever you think of asset management. It's degradation models, it's performance curves and things of that nature. But again, I put this first here because I want to reemphasize that we're trying to embed a system within TDOT, a holistic system that's intended to work cross-functionally, not independently, not disjointedly, which means it's going to take a lot of change management. It's going to take a lot of processes and lines of responsibilities and roles and technical advice through those processes. So when you think about the system being set up, it's more than just a pavement office. It's more than just a bridge office. It's a system of asset management that should be working and functioning within that ecosystem. And so the one thing I want everybody to remember here and take away is, we're trying to establish a system that's meant to work holistically through TDOT. It's going to be a big, important thing to try to think about working with project management, working with planning, working with safety office, working with all those different offices to incorporate those into feedback loops and systems. And then there's still the fun stuff, right? Asset inventory validation, hierarchy development, data integration planning. So each one of these asset classes within TDOT is at a different space. Our pavement office is a little more mature than our ancillary office, as I'm sure that's the case with a lot of DOTs. So every office has a different need when it comes to what they need for inventory validation and hierarchy development. So it's not every office is going to require the same level of effort. Every office is going to be somewhat unique in their needs and their desired outcomes there. We do know that our pavement inventory is really good. Our pavement asset hierarchy is really good. Our bridges, really good. Ancillary, a lot of things fall within ancillary. So you can imagine that area probably needs a little more support. Fleet, the big component of how we do our work and what supports the work of TDOT. We have some things in place, but not everything in place. And then trying to implement these things and aligning those practices and looking at how we collect data, how we store data, and things of that nature. Performance management framework, levels of service, and KPIs. So I have an office within there that is the performance management and quality office. That's new for TDOT in terms of trying to develop one area where you go to for a source of truth. Now that office should be working cross-functionally with every other office to establish and move those KPIs into a positive manner. So areas that we have KPIs, we have performance KPIs on our bridges, on our pavements. Not so with everything. And so trying to work cross-functionally with other groups to establish those performance measures and those frameworks with which we're going to operate within. And so then integrating those into dashboards, integrating those into areas that need to have that information available to them. And providing those feedback loops that we can operate within to, manage those KPIs, measure them, and understand what corrective measures need to be taken to put them back on track. And then, life cycle management strategy, deterioration models, and life cycle cost analysis. We do need quite a bit of this in several areas. And so it is going to be important that every area has these sort of models developed for them, especially as we look at how we plan long term, and develop those long term scenarios on our 10-year plan activities, understanding the true cost of those, understanding our short term needs versus our long term needs, and balancing those out. And how do we do that from the inception of the planning to the actual development of a project? Right now we've started moving in some of those directions, but it's just not holistic across the organization. And so we're trying to do that. Where we don't have some models is going to be obviously in our ancillary assets. So that's going to be a heavy area of focus. Another area would be our concrete pavements, where we have great models on our asphalt pavements, not so much so on our concrete pavements. And so it's an area that we're going to need to really focus on through this RFP. Cost treatments. Again, we have some of those in pavements, but then as you get to bridges, things about rehab, preservation, and even some of the modeling there is going to need to be looked at and validated, and probably shored up some. Go ahead. Risk identification, risk management framework, and resiliency plan. Part of the work that we're doing right now with HNTB is risk identification. So we're going to have a significant roadmap of risk pre-identified through the organization, from maintenance operations to safety to planning to resiliency efforts. So you're not going to come into this and need to actually develop a roadmap of risk identification. There will be a significant portfolio available to us to work on as it pertains to risk. But understanding how do we, prioritize those risks and start mitigating those risks, and then developing measurable ways of ensuring that we're bringing those and mitigating those risks down to a measurable level, a respectable level, I guess you could say. And so, this plays into our TAMP. We'll need to record these things and put them into the TAMP. We'll need to ensure that we're updating our federal and state partners on our efforts as it pertains to risk mitigation. Go ahead, Andrew. Financial planning, support, and investment prioritization strategies. Again, right now, we do some of this in a very siloed way. And so how do we move past the siloed way of planning and understanding real trade-off analyses between projects, fixed types, and bridges, pavement, rehabilitation, and total reconstruction? And so there's going to be some effort here in understanding how to make these trade-off analyses within the organization in a very formalized way, transparent way, where everybody knows what decisions are being made, how decisions are being made, and what we're going to actually get in terms of an ROI for those investments made. And I think that's an important part here is I want to be able to show the organization, what is your return on investment for this project versus that project, or a combination thereof? How are we going to maximize those dollars? We're no different than any other state where we have, a limited budget and an unlimited list of needs. And that I don't think is going to change at any time soon. So, as it pertains to that, I think it's right to say that we do this now in a silo, and how do you bring it together? And that's what we need to figure out, is how do we bring these things together into the system to show leadership what they're really getting for their money, and making informed decisions based on the finances and the return on investment. Go ahead, Andrew. Transportation asset data governance integration and decision support systems. Y'all probably worked with DOTs. We have no shortage of data. We have no shortage of systems. And part of the reason this office was set up is to start developing that source of truth. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you will get away from all of these systems and things that you have, but you need one place to go where you know what the truth is about on time, on budget, where you know what the truth is about your pavement, your bridges, and your assets. So understanding, like, trying to audit these systems and bring alignment to what leadership is looking for, and developing one source of truth where they can go to and find the information that they're looking at. And that could be that you're still operating in other systems, but you have data governance rules in place, and you can speak confidently that the data in there is accurate, it's up to date, and it's representative of the current state of affairs. And a lot of that's going to come down with, developing training and implementing SOPs within the organization around what data we need, what data we don't need, where that data resides, and then other systems in which to use that data. And how do we start connecting these platforms across the organization? Go ahead, Andrew. And then obviously monitoring, evaluating, benchmarking, improvement. So, the performance and quality office is really set up and intended to function this way. They establish those KPIs within the bounds of the organization, and looking at working cross-functionally within the groups. But then how do you respond whenever you find a metric that's out? And so developing those feedback loops and those continuous improvement processes within the organization to respond to performance measures that aren't meeting up. Ideally you would, like to have, predictive analytics around that. That's probably a bit of a stretch, but when you think about trying to not just see where you're at now, where are you going to be in the next 6 months, year? Is everything running as it should? But developing that continuous improvement feedback loop within the performance and quality office, which is a cultural change. When you talk to, and it's the same with all of us, right? We think we solve our problems within our own office, but you've really just put a Band-Aid on it and have not done true root cause analyses down to what's driving these problems. You fixed it this time, and then it pops up again 6 months from now, and then you fix it again, and then that same problem pops up. So trying to develop those continuous improvement processes within the organization. And then, so evaluation criteria, you all should be familiar with this. You've got your team organizational chart, capabilities, and work experience is going to be 25% of this proposal. And then your past work experience and the required disciplines. I don't know that there's anybody in this room that's going to be able to do everything that's going to be asked here. So you may have to find a strong bench to help support that effort. And then your technical approach to these on physical infrastructure asset management, your transportation data system assets, data governance, integration, performance reporting, training capability, organizational change management. That will account for 35% of the overall score here. And then your oral interview will be 20% of your overall score. And then you have today, obviously June 11th is the pre-submittal meeting. Questions deadlines will be June 23rd, so a little over 12 days from now. Your response deadline is June 30th. Oral interviews will take place on July 6th, and then we'll have phase 2 selection results on July 24th anticipated. And if everybody didn't get a picture of that, you'll have the slide deck whenever we leave this thing, so you can get in contact with Brian if you do have any additional questions. Now, I know I went through a lot of things and skimmed over some stuff, and you all may have questions, and so we'll open it up for questions if you have them.
This is a real quick one. This is a single win, basically.
Yeah, it will be.
What was the question?
Is this a single award? Yes. Sir.
What's the duration of contract expected to be?
TBD. You can tell there's a lot of work there, and we're not going to be able to do all that at once, obviously. So depending on what we get back in responses, what we think we can actually accomplish over the course of time. I mean, it's obviously going to be longer than a year, I would suspect. And then it'll be, we'll be building upon that. Obviously, as what we can't get done, we'll continue to build on it. Good questions.
Is there an anticipated contract value or key or cap?
Not at this time. Any other questions?
So the proposal shows that it's 20 pages maximum for the proposal, and it's kind of silent on limitations to section I. What are you looking for? What's the requirement? 20 pages total for everything, including section I, or section I excluded?
I'd have to see what you have it up there. Hang on a second.
It's 20 pages for the entire proposal.
Okay. So it does say except for cover sheets, table of contents,
Correct. Well, so section H does not count where it's the page limit.
but it does count section.
The front and back cover will not, and I guess if you do a table of contents, we're saying that doesn't count. But all the other sections will count towards the 20-page limit.
Any other questions?
Yeah, the offender prime on only a subset of scope elements, or must the prime cover the full scope?
The prime has to offer
Yeah.
a team that will
That's it.
be able to provide the scope. So the prime doesn't have to be able to fill all the scope, but they have to provide a team that will be able to fill the entire scope. One more question.
Okay.
Is it required to submit a separate DT 0330 Part 2 form for each scope element? Or can be consolidated in one?
It's just one proposal, which is the part 2.
Any other?
Is this intended to build systems to work alongside, and this is, I mean, for the inspection side, InspectX, work with them, or is this looking to add on to those systems?
Well, I'm not talking in systems, I mean, people are systems as well, right? Internal systems exclusive of IT systems. I mean, I think that we're going to look at any opportunity we can to marry systems together if it's there. Yeah. Any other questions?
Just to confirm, so everyone that submits, assuming they don't get like thrown out, will participate in the in-person interviews in July, right? Like there's not like a short list, like, 10 submit, 10 would be participating in those interviews.
No,
We would interview everyone,
You would interview, yeah, okay.
everyone that's submitted if was
Yeah, unless you were like,
responsive or
yeah,
not
okay.
qualified.
any other questions?
When it comes to that interview, I think that you guys said you want subs as well there. Is that correct?
Um,
I think it's up to you if you want to bring them.
Can you say that louder, please?
Whether we have to bring subs, and it's up to us. To the
They're just
interviews.
limited to 5 people. 5 people can be whoever you want them to be.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the July 6th like a firm date for the presentations? Because the 4th is the Saturday. I'm just wondering if there's any,
Week of. Sure.
Just to add on to that, will you be assigning time slots? Can you pick the date? How does that work?
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
So for the week of July 6th, will you be assigning the specific time slots or do we get options to pick?
When we determine who has submitted a proposal, there will probably be a scheduling invite that comes out that allows you to sign up, and it'll just be first come, first serve, basically, for the slots that are available.
What's your intention with the on-site availability? In terms of, are you expecting it to be duration? Or are you expecting it to just be points of time where you need someone on site?
It's probably going to vary depending on what the task is at hand. So that's probably the best way I can answer that. I don't think this is going to get away from on-site to some extent with what we're trying to do. Any other questions? No? Well, if there's no more questions, I suppose that we'll give everybody something. Yes, sir.
Will you distribute the sign-in sheet?
The sign-in sheet will be posted to our website.
Thank you.
If you didn't sign in or else you will be considered unresponsive. Please submit your proposal.
Who else online?
Nobody's online.
It's just us.
Everybody's here.
Subs don't have to sign in, or they do? Is there, like, if we want to sub with someone, they're not here?
No, this is
No.
only mandatory for the crime.
Yeah. Going once, going twice. Any other questions?
is there a requirement, like, can you prime and be on a sub team, or is it?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Is it critical that like the subs be qualified with this DT 0330? I mean, is there some subs that you might need that, you know, that are able to bring things to the table with an engineering firm, but not actually be a registered engineering firm? Is there any workaround or?
Almost every sub has to be pre-qualified. There's certain instances if they don't fall under the Brooks Act that they don't have to be pre-qualified. But if you have questions, I would encourage you to submit those to the PS advertisements mailbox so that we can explore specifically which sub you're, because it would not be a good idea to just assume that they don't have to be pre-qualified.
Any more questions? No? Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody showing up and your interest in this advertisement. I look forward to reading your proposals.